When orders meant death, humanity's answer shocked the galaxy. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Haven Colony, watching the tactical display with growing dread. 47 red dots moved steadily toward their small blue dot on the screen. Each red dot represented a Kythera Empire warship. Each warship carried enough firepower to level a city. The mining colony of New Haven sat on the edge of human space, home to 50,000 civilians who had come here to build better lives. They extracted rare minerals from the asteroid belt, sent them back to Earth, and raised their families in the artificial gravity of the colony's rotating habitats. It was peaceful work, honest work, and completely defenseless work. Sarah had been assigned here 6 months ago as a military advisor. Her job was to help coordinate supply shipments and handle minor security issues. Pirates occasionally tried to steal mineral shipments. Smugglers sometimes used the asteroid belt to hide illegal cargo. She had never expected to face a full military invasion. The communication panel crackled to life. "Commander Chen, this is Captain Martinez on the evacuation transport Mercy. We're taking heavy fire. Repeat, we are under attack." Sarah grabbed the microphone. "Martinez, what's your status? Can you reach the outer system?" "Negative, Commander. They got us. Both evacuation ships are gone. I'm sorry, Sarah. We couldn't save them." The transmission ended in static. Sarah stared at the now empty evacuation corridor on her display. The 2 transport ships that were supposed to carry the colony's population to safety had been destroyed before they could even leave the asteroid belt. 50,000 men, women, and children were now trapped with nowhere to run. Dr. Marcus Reed, the colony's chief mining engineer, appeared at her shoulder. His face was pale but determined. "Sarah, we need to talk. The miners are asking what happens next." "What happens next is we follow military protocol," Sarah replied, though her voice lacked conviction. "When facing overwhelming odds with civilian populations at risk, the standard procedure is to surrender and hope for mercy." "Mercy," Reed's voice rose. "Have you seen what the Kythera do to colonies they conquer? They strip mine entire worlds and use the populations as forced labor. There is no mercy." Sarah knew he was right. The Kythera Empire had been expanding across this sector for 2 years, conquering human colonies one by one. They took the young and strong for labor camps. The old and weak simply disappeared. Surrender meant a slow death instead of a quick one. The tactical display updated again. The Kythera fleet had stopped just outside weapons range. A communication request blinked on Sarah's console. "Put it through," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a Kythera command ship. The alien commander was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes that showed no emotion. When it spoke, the translator gave its words a mechanical quality. "Human settlement. This is War Leader Vex of the Kythera 3rd Fleet. You will surrender immediately. Lower your shields and prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the elimination of your population." Sarah stood up straight, her military training taking over. "War Leader Vex, this is Commander Sarah Chen of New Haven Colony. We are a civilian mining operation. We have families here, children. Surely we can reach some kind of arrangement." "There are no arrangements. You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we will take the colony by force." The transmission ended. Sarah stared at the blank screen, feeling the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. Around the command center, her small military staff waited for orders. These were good people, trained soldiers who trusted her to make the right decision. Reed spoke quietly. "Sarah, I've been thinking. We're not completely helpless here. Marcus, we have 200 military personnel and maybe 50 security guards. They have 47 warships. But we have something they don't expect. We have mining equipment, industrial fabricators, and people who know how to build things. Most importantly, we have the asteroid field itself." Sarah looked at him with new interest. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we don't make this easy for them. New Haven sits in the middle of the largest asteroid mining operation in human space. We have tunnels, maintenance shafts, and mining equipment that could be adapted for other purposes. If we're going to die anyway, maybe we can make them remember the cost." The idea was insane. A mining colony fighting a military fleet was like a child throwing rocks at a tank. But as Sarah looked around the command center at the faces of her people, she saw something she hadn't expected. She saw determination. Lieutenant Torres, her communications officer, spoke up. "Commander, I've been monitoring civilian channels. The miners are already organizing. They're asking for orders, not asking to surrender. Same here, added Sergeant Park from security. The families are moving into the deepest habitats. They know what's coming and they're not running. Sarah walked to the main window of the command center. Outside, she could see the lights of the colony's habitats, the mining platforms, and the industrial complexes that had taken years to build. 50,000 people called this place home. They had come here to start new lives, to raise their children in freedom, to build something better than what they had left behind. Marcus, she said slowly, if we fight, how long can we hold out? With conventional tactics, maybe 6 hours, but with unconventional tactics, using the asteroid field and our industrial equipment, maybe we could make it days, even weeks. And you think people will fight? Civilians with families? Sarah, these aren't refugees or prisoners. These are miners, engineers, and technicians who volunteered to come to the edge of space. They're already the kind of people who don't give up easily. Sarah made her decision. She activated the colony-wide communication system, knowing that her next words would be recorded in history, assuming anyone survived to write it. Citizens of New Haven Colony, this is Commander Chen. You all know our situation. The Cathera Empire has demanded our surrender. Our evacuation ships have been destroyed. By all military logic, we should surrender now and hope for mercy. She paused, looking out at the lights of the colony. But I've lived among you for 6 months. I've seen what you've built here. I've watched you solve impossible problems and turn raw asteroids into homes for your families. You didn't come here to give up at the first sign of trouble. The command center was completely silent. Even the hum of the electronics seemed to fade away. So, I'm going to ask you to do something that goes against every military manual ever written. I'm asking you to fight. Not because we can win, but because some things are worth fighting for even when you can't win. I'm asking you to show the galaxy what humans do when they're backed into a corner. Sarah activated what the military called Protocol Zero, the emergency authorization that allowed civilian populations to engage in armed resistance when all other options had failed. It was a protocol that had never been used before, because no commander had ever been desperate enough to try it. All military personnel, begin immediate distribution of weapons and equipment to civilian volunteers. All civilians who wish to evacuate to the deepest levels are free to do so. All civilians who wish to fight are welcome to join us. We're not going to make this easy for them. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The communication channels filled with voices as people volunteered for combat duties, offered their technical skills, and organized themselves into resistance groups. The miners who had spent their careers blasting through solid rock were ready to blast through Kythera ships. The engineers who had built the colony's life support systems were ready to build weapons. The families who had made New Haven their home were ready to defend it with their lives. Reed was already at work, pulling up schematics on his tablet. Sarah, I think I can modify the mining lasers for ship-to-ship combat. They're not designed for it, but with some adjustments. Do it, Sarah ordered. And Marcus, make it hurt. As the colony transformed itself from a peaceful mining operation into an armed fortress, Sarah watched the Kythera fleet resume its approach. The aliens expected quick surrender followed by easy occupation. Instead, they were about to learn something about humans that their computers had never calculated. When you threaten a human's family, when you attack their home, when you give them no choice between slavery and death, humans don't surrender. They fight. And they fight with everything they have, using every tool at their disposal, turning plowshares into swords and mining equipment into weapons of war. The Kythera had superior technology, superior numbers, and superior firepower. But they had never faced an enemy that refused to accept defeat. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one with nothing left to lose. War Leader Vex's hour deadline passed without response. The human colony continued its preparations, and strange energy readings began appearing on Kythera sensors. The aliens had expected either surrender or panic. Instead, they were seeing organized resistance from a population that should have been helpless. It was the first sign that this conquest would be different from all the others. The Cathera Empire was about to discover what happened when they picked a fight with humans who had decided that death was preferable to surrender. The real battle was about to begin. Humans don't fight fair, they fight smart. Dr. Marcus Reed had not slept in 36 hours. His hands were black with grease, his work clothes singed from electrical burns, and his eyes red from staring at technical schematics. But as he stood in Mining Bay 7, watching his latest creation power up for the first time, he felt more alive than he had in years. The device in front of him had started life as an industrial mining laser, designed to cut through solid rock and extract rare minerals from asteroid cores. Now, after 3 days of non-stop modification, it was something entirely different. The focusing crystals had been replaced with military-grade components salvaged from the colony's defense systems. The power coupling had been upgraded using superconductors from the fusion reactors. Most importantly, the targeting system had been completely rebuilt using spare parts from mining drones. "Will it work?" asked Jenny Martinez, a mining supervisor who had volunteered to operate the new weapon. She was a small woman with calloused hands and a reputation for being able to fix anything that broke in the asteroid mines. "Theoretically, yes," Reed replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "The laser now has enough power to punch through starship armor. The targeting system can track moving objects at combat speeds. The only question is whether it will hold together when we fire it." Jenny grinned. "Only one way to find out." Around them, Mining Bay 7 buzzed with activity. Other teams were working on similar projects throughout the colony. Mining explosives were being converted into ship-killing missiles. Construction mechs were being fitted with armor and weapons. Even the waste recycling systems had been modified to produce chemical compounds that could be weaponized. Commander Chen appeared at Reed's shoulder carrying a steaming cup of coffee and looking like she hadn't slept either. "Marcus, how many of these can we build?" "We've got 12 mining bays that can be converted, maybe 24 smaller units using portable equipment. But Sarah, even if they all work perfectly, we're still talking about maybe 40 weapons against 47 warships." "It's not about matching their numbers," Chen replied. "It's about making them pay a price they didn't expect. How's the tunnel system coming along?" Reed activated a holographic display showing the asteroid belt around New Haven Colony. The display was crisscrossed with thousands of tunnels, maintenance shafts, and mining corridors that had been carved out over the past 5 years. What had started as a simple mining operation had grown into a 3-dimensional maze that extended for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. "This is our real advantage," Reed explained. "The colony itself is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got hidden supply depots, emergency shelters, and enough tunnel networks to keep a guerrilla war going for months. The Cathera will have to dig us out one tunnel at a time." Chen studied the display with growing excitement. "Can we move weapons through these tunnels? Set up ambush points?" "Better than that. We can hit them from positions they can't see coming. Mining lasers don't need to be in open space to be effective. We can fire through tunnel openings from hidden positions in the asteroid field, even from inside the rocks themselves." The tactical possibilities were staggering. Instead of meeting the Cathera fleet in open battle, where human forces would be quickly overwhelmed, they could fight a 3-dimensional campaign using the asteroid field itself as their fortress. The aliens would find themselves facing an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear back into the tunnels before return fire could be effective. Jenny Martinez finished her pre-flight checks on the converted mining laser. "Ready for the first test, Dr. Reed." Reed activated his communication link to the command center. "Sarah, we're ready for the first field test of the new weapons." "Copy that, Marcus. We've got a Kythera patrol ship about 50 kilometers out. Perfect target for testing." On the tactical display, Reed could see a single alien vessel moving slowly through the asteroid field, probably conducting reconnaissance before the main attack. It was smaller than the capital ships, but still heavily armed and shielded. Under normal circumstances, it would be more than capable of destroying any mining equipment that tried to threaten it. But these weren't normal circumstances. Jenny Martinez strapped herself into the operator's chair and began her targeting sequence. The converted mining laser rotated on its mounting, tracking the distant Kythera ship with mechanical precision. Energy readings climbed steadily as the weapon charged to full power. "Target locked," Jenny reported, firing in 3, 2, 1. The mining laser fired with a sound like thunder. A brilliant beam of coherent energy lanced out across space, invisible to the naked eye but clearly visible on sensors. Reed held his breath, waiting to see if months of theoretical work and sleepless nights had produced anything useful. The beam struck the Kythera patrol ship amidships, punching through its shields like they weren't even there. The alien vessel's hull armor, designed to deflect military-grade weapons, simply vaporized under the focused power of the industrial laser. The ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion that lit up the asteroid field for kilometers around. The command center erupted in cheers that could be heard throughout the colony. Reed stared at the display in amazement. The converted mining laser had just destroyed a Kythera warship with a single shot. "Jenny," he said quietly. I think it works. She was grinning from ear to ear. Dr. Reed, I've been cutting through solid rock for 15 years. Cutting through alien ships is just more interesting. Commander Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. All stations, this is the command center. First blood goes to Mining Bay 7. 1 Kythera patrol ship destroyed. All units prepare for main attack. Across the colony, similar scenes were playing out as civilian volunteers completed their crash course in combat operations. Maria Santos, a former cargo pilot, was learning to operate a modified construction mech that had been fitted with armor and missile launchers. Tom Bradley, a maintenance supervisor, had turned his repair workshop into a factory for improvised explosives. Even the teenagers from the colony's school had volunteered for communication and sensor duties. The Kythera response was swift and overwhelming. War Leader Vex, apparently shocked by the destruction of his patrol ship, ordered an immediate full-scale assault on the colony. 46 alien warships accelerated toward New Haven, their weapons powering up for what should have been a simple destruction of a mining facility. What they found instead was a fortress. The first Kythera attack wave ran into a crossfire from 12 different directions as converted mining lasers opened up from hidden positions throughout the asteroid field. The aliens' targeting computers, designed to fight conventional naval battles, couldn't track weapons that fired from inside solid asteroids. Their return fire blasted chunks of rock but missed the hidden laser emplacements. 3 more Kythera ships died in the first exchange, torn apart by weapons that shouldn't have existed. But the aliens were learning fast. Their second attack wave came in at different angles, trying to identify and eliminate the hidden weapons. Reed watched the battle unfold from Mining Bay 7 while Jenny Martinez continued to fire with deadly precision. Each shot from their converted laser was perfectly aimed, striking alien ships at their most vulnerable points. The mining supervisor's years of experience cutting through rock had given them an instinctive understanding of where to hit for maximum damage. Sarah, Reed called over the communication link, they're adapting faster than I expected. They'll figure out our position soon. Then we move to Phase 2, Chen replied. All mining teams, implement tunnel protocol, disappear into the rocks. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The human defenders simply vanished. One moment the asteroid field was alive with weapons fire from dozens of hidden positions. The next moment it was silent, as if the humans had never been there at all. The Kythera fleet moved cautiously into the asteroid field, searching for enemies that seemed to have evaporated. Their sensors detected life signs throughout the tunnels, but the readings were confusing and contradictory. The humans appeared to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Then the real battle began. A Kythera cruiser moved past what appeared to be an empty asteroid. Suddenly, a section of the rock face opened like a door, revealing a converted mining laser that fired at point-blank range. The alien ship's shields couldn't handle the unexpected attack. The cruiser exploded and the hidden weapon disappeared back into the asteroid before return fire could reach it. Similar ambushes erupted throughout the field. Weapons appeared from impossible angles, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before the aliens could respond. The Kythera found themselves fighting an enemy that used the laws of physics as weapons, turning the asteroid field itself into a 3-dimensional battlefield. War Leader Vex watched his fleet take casualties from an enemy he couldn't see or predict. His tactical computers couldn't model humans who fought like this. Every military doctrine assumed that weapons were mounted on ships or fixed installations. The humans were treating the entire asteroid field as their ship, appearing wherever they were least expected. The most devastating attack came when Tom Bradley's improvised explosives team managed to plant charges on several asteroids in the path of the Kythera advance. When the alien ships moved between the asteroids, Bradley detonated the charges simultaneously. The explosions didn't just damage the ships, they filled space with high-velocity rock fragments that shredded anything without heavy armor. 2 Kythera destroyers were lost in the asteroid trap, their hulls torn apart by debris moving at orbital velocities. The surviving alien ships found themselves trapped in a maze of floating rocks and hidden enemies, taking fire from all directions while being unable to identify specific targets. But the humans' greatest advantage wasn't their improvised weapons or creative tactics. It was their refusal to follow conventional rules of warfare. Military doctrine said that when outnumbered 40-1, you should retreat or surrender. The humans ignored military doctrine and fought anyway. When their weapons were damaged, they repaired them with spare parts salvaged from mining equipment. When their positions were discovered, they moved to new ones through tunnels the aliens couldn't see. When their ammunition ran low, they manufactured more using industrial equipment that was never designed for military use. Most importantly, they fought with the determination of people who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. Every human in the asteroid field was fighting for their family, their home, and their future. That kind of motivation couldn't be programmed into a computer or planned by a military strategist. As the battle raged into its second day, Reed's teams had destroyed 8 Kythera ships and damaged a dozen more. The alien fleet was still superior in numbers and firepower, but they were no longer confident of easy victory. Every movement through the asteroid field brought new attacks from unexpected directions. The galaxy was watching. News of the battle had spread through communication networks to every human colony and many alien worlds. Species that had surrendered to the Kythera without resistance were now seeing humans fight impossible odds with improvised weapons and creative tactics. On distant worlds, other resistance movements began to stir. If humans could turn mining equipment into ship-killing weapons, what could other species do with their own industrial capabilities? The Kythera Empire was about to discover that their greatest enemy wasn't human technology. It was the human example of what was possible when ordinary people refused to accept defeat. One colony's stand, a galaxy's awakening ambassador Zara Okafor had been in diplomatic meetings for 16 straight hours when the priority message arrived. She read it 3 times before the implications fully sank in. A human mining colony on the frontier was successfully resisting a full Kythera fleet using converted industrial equipment and guerrilla tactics. Zara was Earth's senior diplomat to the Galactic Council, a position that had become increasingly difficult as human colonies faced conquest by the expanding Kythera Empire. For months, she had been trying to build a coalition of species willing to stand against Kythera aggression. The results had been disappointing. Most species preferred to avoid conflict rather than risk their own worlds in defense of others. But now, everything had changed. Ambassador, her aide rushed into the conference room. You need to see the latest reports from New Haven Colony. Zara activated the holographic display, showing real-time tactical data from the battle. What she saw was impossible by every conventional military analysis. The small human force had not only survived for 4 days against overwhelming odds, but was actually winning. 12 Kythera ships had been destroyed, and the remainder were trapped in a 3-dimensional battlefield where human defenders appeared and disappeared like ghosts. More importantly, the news was spreading throughout the galaxy at the speed of light. Every species with communication technology was hearing about humans who refused to surrender, who turned mining equipment into weapons, and who fought with a determination that no computer could calculate. Zara, came a voice from the conference room's communication system. This is Chancellor Thane of the Rigel Collective. We need to talk. The Chancellor was a member of a species that had been conquered by the Kythera 3 years ago. The Rigel Collective had surrendered after a brief resistance, choosing survival over freedom. Since then, they had been model subjects of the Empire, providing technical expertise and administrative support for further conquests. But now Chancellor Thane's voice carried something Zara had never heard before: hope. Ambassador Okafor, my people have been monitoring the situation at New Haven Colony. The humans are doing something we thought was impossible. They're making the Kythera pay for every meter of ground. Determination that had made the human defense so effective. The Kythera Empire's greatest strength had always been the assumption that resistance was futile. Species faced with overwhelming force would choose survival over freedom. But the humans at New Haven had proven that assumption wrong, and their example had spread like wildfire through the galactic communication networks. When War Leader Vex's flagship exploded under concentrated fire from 6 different species, the remaining Kythera ships fled rather than face complete annihilation. For the first time in their expansion across this sector, the Empire had been forced to retreat. The victory at New Haven was more than just a tactical success. It was proof that ordinary beings could defeat superior technology through determination, creativity, and cooperation. The galaxy would never be the same. In the months that followed, the resistance movement that had started with one human colony spread to encompass dozens of worlds. The Rigel Collective became the main source of weapons and equipment for resistance forces. The Andromedans provided raw materials and logistics support. The vegan crystals coordinated communication networks that allowed resistance cells to operate across vast distances. But it was the humans who provided the most crucial element. They provided the example. Every species that joined the resistance had heard the story of New Haven Colony, where mining engineers had turned industrial equipment into weapons, where civilian volunteers had faced impossible odds, and where people had chosen death over surrender. Ambassador Okafor found herself at the center of a growing coalition that eventually became known as the Free Worlds Alliance. The organization's founding charter included a principle that became known throughout the galaxy as the human doctrine. Some things are worth fighting for, even when victory seems impossible. Dr. Marcus Reed returned to his work as a mining engineer, but his converted weapons became the template for defensive systems throughout human space. The techniques developed at New Haven were shared freely with any species willing to resist oppression. Commander Sarah Chen was promoted to admiral and placed in command of the Alliance's rapid response forces. Her first official act was to establish the Protocol Zero training program, teaching other species how to turn industrial equipment into effective weapons. But perhaps the most important outcome of the battle was something that couldn't be measured in ships destroyed or territories liberated. The galaxy had learned that tyranny was not inevitable, that superior technology could be overcome by superior determination, and that sometimes the most powerful weapon was simply the refusal to give up. The Cathera Empire continued to exist, but it no longer expanded unopposed. Every conquest now faced the possibility of resistance inspired by the human example. Species that had accepted oppression for generations began to remember what freedom felt like. Years later, when historians studied the transformation of galactic civilization, they would trace the beginning of the Free Worlds Alliance to a single decision made by Commander Sarah Chen in the command center of a mining colony. When faced with impossible odds and certain death, she had chosen to fight rather than surrender. That choice had echoed across the galaxy, inspiring others to make similar choices, until the simple idea that some things were worth fighting for became the foundation of a new galactic order. The real battle, the one for the soul of galactic civilization, had been won not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the basic human principle that freedom was worth any sacrifice. The miners of New Haven had shown the galaxy what courage looked like, and the galaxy had responded by choosing courage over submission. In the end, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't energy weapons or faster-than-light travel. It was the idea that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they refused to accept that defeat was inevitable. The humans had given that idea to the galaxy, and the galaxy had used it to build a better future for everyone. The last stand at New Haven Colony had become the first step toward galactic freedom.